Hi, this is Steve, and on this week's suspension tip, we're going to talk about lowering your car, the old way and the modern way. Now, the old way, they used to go out and do something as basic as taking a acetylene torch and heating up their coil springs in order to drop the suspension down. Now, it's very tough to be able to heat two different springs in the same manner, so you'd end up with a car that would be sitting lopsided going down the road, or the spring rate would be off, thus deteriorating your ride and your handling characteristics of the car. Now, we want to talk about the modern way of doing it and how to lower your car properly. We have two examples here of cars that are done. One's an old style stock suspension, and the other one is lowered in the modern version of what we consider taking your old car to new heights and making it perform like a modern day car. Now folks, what we have here is an example of a stock 57 Chevy. Getting pretty hard to find nowadays. If you notice, we got a lot of air between the fender well and the tire. Not a good look by today's modern standards. Now in a second, what we're going to do is we're going to pull the wheel off of this car and we're going to take a look at the springs and the shocks and everything in their stock configuration and show you what they look like and how they work. Now, sitting directly in front of this car, we've got a 55 Chevy, very nice car, that's been lowered with a modern twist. It's got drop spindles, sway bars have been changed on it. This one actually will ride and handle much better than this stock height vehicle. Now we're looking at a stock 57 Chevy suspension. Now anytime we start talking about lowering, the Steve tip of the day is always check for worn parts. Take a look at your ball joints, your control arm bushings, tie rod ends and such. Now's the time to change it. If you've got any worn parts, it's much easier to do it now while you've got it apart than to do it later. Now, looking at the suspension, we're looking at the stock drum brakes. These things in their best working condition are going to give you about 2 hard stops under today's driving conditions before they're going to start to heat up and fade on you. We've also got our stock ball joints, stock spindles. The customer has, although, upgraded to a gas shock, which is going to improve his performance or handling a little bit. Now, right beside the shock, something we're going to get into is the original bump stop is still in the vehicle. Very important. We're going to touch on this a little bit later. Next, let's take a look at a modern day lowering of a 55 Chevy. We were just looking at a stock configuration on a 57 Chevy. Now we're going to move to a modern day version of lowered 55 Chevy. Now, not so much to do with the lowering, but you're going to notice this vehicle has disc brakes on it. Got rid of those old drum brakes. This thing's going to stop much better than the old drum style. Now, if you remember, this thing was lowered in the dirt, basically. How he achieved this is through spindles. He put drop spindles in it. Now, drop spindles, a very good way to lower the car. They'll generally cost you somewhere around $300 for a pair of them. But what it does is you're actually raising the axle on the car, thus lowering the vehicle without losing any travel out of your suspension. So this is a very good way to lower it. It also leaves the tie rod ends and ball joints basically in their stock configuration for better ride and handling. Now, you'll also notice that in here we've got Bilstein gas pressure shock absorbers. Very nice upgrade on these cars. And you'll also see a sway bar, which was not on the other vehicle. This thing is going to ride and drive like a modern day vehicle. It's in the dirt and it's a 55 Chevy. You can't beat that. That's it for this week's tip. We'll see you next time.